Well, this should be John Corazine's next scam, throwing money through a laundromat, a new laundering type of money deal, instead of trying to make bets on derivatives and stuff. Um, this is probably one of the most lucrative trades out there, and actually, if you look back at my video called Millionaire Strippers, it probably is the best deal in the world because it's a cash economy. But anyway, this is an interesting story about MF Global, and sometimes I put this out here because it seems like the smartest people are cash basis and below the radar, and you just go in $1 bills versus trillions of dollars of bills, and that keeps you below the radar. But anyway, it looks like MF Global is suing 12 banks, believe it or not, and this is probably all related to John Corazine's bad bet. Remember? And that's why MF Global went down. Now, I actually said a couple good things about John Corazine because I don't really like the guy, but it's like this. He was a trader's trader. That's really how they viewed him as. He basically was always out on the trading floor. He could have actually been, outside of that loop. He's an aggressive person that's into the game, and somehow he thought he had inside information. Like, you got to figure this, little common sense. When he made that bet and bet the whole company, he shouldn't have done that. I mean, it was all illegal. Those were segregated funds and everything. But, and he didn't get in trouble for it or nothing. But, when he made that bet, you figure he's an insider guy. He's an insider guy. He was the governor of New Jersey. He was the head of Goldman Sachs. He's been in the loop, right? That kind of tells you, and this whole story is going to kind of reveal something to you, that the supposed collapse, there's going to be problems coming up, and I'm also going to relate this to what Lloyd Blankfein said. Okay, but basically, just kind of put all the little snippets of information together because this is MF Global now suing 12 banks for allegedly restricting competition in the $25 trillion, trillion with a T. That's a crazy sum, right? $25 trillion credit default swap market after the EU, the European Union, charged the lender for blocking exchange access to the contracts. So MF Global is naming in the complaint. Now this is where I'm saying, remember we talked about, or you heard the different things about the credit, the derivatives market coming down, right? You've seen, like, over the past year or so, people resigning from big banks and making public statements about, oh, I'm not part of that, oh, it's terrible. It's like the whole system doesn't come down overnight. Something very strong that's been around a long time just doesn't come down, when there's a drama story out there, right? But it looks like there's more cracks in the system. MF Global is named in the complaint. Bank of America, Barclays, BNP Paribas, Citigroup, Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs, HSBC, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Royal Bank of Scotland, and UBS. So, it's like that was the cartel of banks that was working against MF Global, supposedly, right? So, this is my contention, though. It's kind of telling you things are falling apart. And it's always like when you got somebody who makes a hell of a lot of money, like you got to remember Cohen made a lot of money, and there was that guy that was from Overstock.com put out the full page ad in the Wall Street Journal about Cohen and what he did to ruin their stock and all this stuff. It's like you piss somebody else off. It's like the big guys are feeding on each other now, which tells you keep the pressure up. Keep the pressure up because you should not partake in their BS racket games in a lot of ways. Sometimes I know, like, buying the silver is like an investment. I look bad for the last 2 years, but Mark Farber, I mentioned this a gazillion times, but when he buys physical gold and he's saying that he's not thinking to have a speculative bet. That's actually going to turn out to be that way, though. He's afraid of a systemic financial collapse throughout the system, whereas gold is going to be the only safety, and therefore it's going to go way to hell up. And all this stuff that's going on, where these guys are fighting at each other right now, there's like all this, they're like a pack of sharks feeding off each other's tails. That's really what's going on. MF Global's lawsuit comes 1 month after European Union regulators charged 13 banks and two financial data companies with breaching EU antitrust rules. So, their contention is, again, that there was a cartel of banks that were working together, and MF Global wasn't part of it. See, that's probably how John Corzine got screwed. You see what I mean? He thought he had something going, but it was like the sharks feeding on the shark. And you say, so what? But it's like the guys, everybody had invested their money, and these guys at the sharks on the top will get their money first. That's if they have their way. But if you have physical silver, physical gold, like Mark Farber's betting on physical gold, they ain't getting it. You know what I'm saying? You got your money. You got your money. So after saying that the institution, so in other words, they broke the antitrust rules, and they said that the institutions blocked rival exchanges in the credit derivatives business between 2006 and 2009. And looks like John Corzine, the CEO of MF Global, who stepped down on November 4, 2011, did not seek severance payments in connection with his resignation. I wonder why. Boy, that would take some real, oomph-spa, whatever the hell you want to call it, if we could do something like, I want my severance pay, You guys should have been slammed a lot more than that. And he just said, oh, well, I'll just quit, I ruined the company, and everybody's lost their money. But it looks like the cartel got him. You see? You know what I'm saying? So after the spectacular collapse of MS Global a few days earlier, that's when he basically resigned a few days later, right? And I know, women like this, the millionaire strippers, I have another story out there about millionaire strippers. I think they're a lot smarter than the banksters in a lot of ways, but eventually this paper cash will wind up in the hands of people that actually work for a living more than these people. And, just don't be foolish with your money. But I think John Corzine would have been a lot smarter if he worked a derivatives deal out with one of the strippers. And, if you got those extra cash, you know how to put it through the system. You can run it through here, So, I pay you $2, I get $1 out of it. The money didn't cost me anything in the first place. So you make a deal with a bunch of strippers, and that's how you get the money under the system, right? Anyway, I don't know. But it looks like John Corzine got set up by the cartel, right? I mean, if MF Global is basically naming these people in the complaint, Bank of America, Barclays, BNP, Paribas, Citigroup, Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs, HSBC, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Royal Bank of Scotland, and UBS, they're saying they're a cartel in the 25 trillion credit default swap market. So when John Corzine made the bet, the cartel screwed him, right? See what I mean? Even though he's a big guy, somebody else gets together, and they get together with other people, and the sharks get together and circle and bite the other shark, right? So you say, so what? But the problem is, if you got your money in MF Global, you're pretty much messed up. So, sometimes I say it's good to be under the wire, stay below the wire. And old girl here staying below the wire right here, and just collecting the $1 bills and stuff like that. Watch out for those credit default swaps. But it looks like it's not just MF Global that's going after this cartel. It's also the investigations that's coming out from the European Union, right? So they're being investigated other ways. So it's probably very true. And you remember about Lloyd Blankfein? Lloyd Blankfein talking about problems coming up, possibly prepare for the worst. Why is he saying that now? I mean, you should always prepare for the worst, right? Why is he saying that now? Doesn't that kind of hint that something else is coming up when you start adding up all these different things? After EU regulators are actually charging 13 banks and two financial data companies with breaching EU antitrust rules, and then MF Global says, comes out with another lawsuit. And then Blankfein is talking about problems in the system. See what I mean? See what I mean? But I'm going to tell you this right now. You'll be better off with silver and gold. Don't tell her that, because your paper is probably not going to be buying as much as you thought in the future, even though it's been looking good for the last couple of years. But by the time people figure out that silver and gold were the smart move, it's going to be too late. It's going to be far too late. So, it's like this. Sometimes you got to persevere, right? And through the ups and downs of something, it's not like everything is that easy. If you knew all the answers, you sure ain't going to find them blabbed all over the place on the internet like inside information. Even John Corzine, who thought he was an insider, was set up, right? Was set up. But I can tell you right now, I think Mark Farber's right. He wouldn't be buying all this toilet paper like old girl here is doing, collecting it. He'd be taking some of this paper and putting it into silver. And there's a reason for that. Because basically, this stuff just is paper. So, you know, when we're talking about credit default rackets going on and cartels and stuff like that, even old girl here collecting the paper, it's not the smartest move in the world. It should be silver.